Hi, and welcome to this week's Q&A. I don't have any questions this week, and I wanted to talk about food. All of you are here because of Holistic Gen Nutrition Nerds, so we're all about the food. But I started thinking about some conversations I had this last week. Number one, the reset just ended. It went 2 whole weeks because half the people were on vacation the first week, so it was fabulous. Some people did it for a whole 2 weeks. Some people did a soft start and then did last week. It was fabulous. I think there were 20 people total. Not everyone was active in the Facebook group, but it was wonderful seeing the pictures. Even I was getting so inspired. There were 2 that were almost competing with the food art. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, I was just really impressed with the participants. When it ended, so many people talked about, I put in there, what are you carrying forward from the reset? And there's a trend of hydration. So many people want to focus on hydration. We need to drink about half our body weight in water a day. Not more than that, unless it's sweating, things like that. Sometimes you drink more. I usually do drink more than half my body weight, but recently I saw on the news how someone drank too much water and she died from drinking too much water too fast. She drank 64 ounces in 20 minutes. That is crazy. That would be 2 quarts of water in 20 minutes, which I guess would be doable, but it would kind of hurt probably trying to drink that much water. So there are a lot of reasons why that could have been a problem. When you are thirsty, so it said she was thirsty. When you are thirsty, you don't want to chug a bunch of water like that. When you chug water like that, you have a lot of water coming in, a lot of water coming in. Your body adjusts and says, oh, we have a lot of water coming in. So then you have more water loss, and it puts a lot of pressure on your kidneys and can interfere with your electrolytes as well. And so when you are thirsty, number one, you're already, I think it's a pint low. You're already dehydrated once you feel thirsty. Now, here's an issue with that. Sometimes we mistake our thirst and hunger cues. So sometimes when you think you're hungry, you're really thirsty. So always when you think that tinge of hunger, you start to get that, and you're between meals and it's still a ways till dinner, have a glass of water. It may just be that you were thirsty. And then right now, because we're having this heat wave, it's very important to stay well hydrated. But like I said, you don't want to chug it. You want to sip. So maybe drinking a glass, 8 ounces of water, but don't do it more than 8 ounces in 15 minutes. You drink your cup of water, and then 15 minutes later, have another glass of water. When people are training, like doing triathlons and Ironman and all of that, they have to pace out their water as they go along. Number one, you don't want to run with that water sloshing in your gut, right? So you want to pace yourself when you're drinking. So hydration is major. So many of us don't drink enough water, and there's so many things that we drink that are dehydrating. Coffee is very dehydrating. If you ever notice, you drink coffee. I used to drink coffee, and when I would leave the house, I would drive to work. It was 10 minutes away, and I would run in the door to run to the bathroom. It was only 10 minutes, and I would go before I left the house. It just is. It's very dehydrating. It's also irritating to the bladder as well. But caffeine is that way. So if you drink sweet tea, black tea, those are also sodas, sugar, they're all dehydrating. Think about sugar. If you were to pour some water on some sugar, it kind of soaks it up. It soaks, that's the way it is in your body as well. So it kind of soaks it up, and then you're losing a lot of water that way too. And so you want to make sure that you're staying and well hydrated. So aim for that. Half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you want to have about 75 ounces of water. We've talked about this on several videos before. So when we are thinking about health, you can't out exercise a poor diet. I think all of you know that. That's why you're in my group, right? We're all about the food, right? But we also can't be in optimal health when we're eating optimally, but the rest of our things are out of balance. We have so many things that we need to keep in balance, and we don't want to focus, all on nutrition and neglect these other things. We need to do all of it. Dr. Rita Marie has her freedom pillars. I think that's a great way to think about it. We need to make sure that we're having fun every day, that we're resting every day. We talked about this last week some, right? Exercise. So exercise can be out working in the yard and things, but the definition is it's a regular scheduled repetition. And one of the best things that you can do is strength training. Now, depending on your genes, some of you do better with aerobics, or that's not necessarily aerobics, but aerobic type activities. And some of you do better with strength training. So I keep my weights right here by my desk. So I have weights right here because I'm on Zoom so much. A lot of times I just need to take a quick break and do some kind of compounded movement to move my whole body. So I'll do like a squat and a curl and a lift and then do my triceps and then go back down, right? And so compounded movements, however you can fit it in. But also moving as well. So here, like I'm on Zoom all day, maybe you sit at a desk quite often. A lot of times I'm in the kitchen all day, so I am on my feet. But if I'm sitting here like in Zoom, sometimes I'll have Zoom back to back to back. It could be 8 or 9 hours. And so I just make sure that I walk around the house, go outside and walk a loop, something every hour. You don't want to stay in your chair. You know, you've probably heard sitting is the new smoking, right? It's not, we need to move everything in our body. We have a lymph system that is our sewer system that helps to remove the fluids, and it goes all through your body. You know, when you hear about cancer, that's really the only time we hear about lymph nodes and things like, right? We hear that, you know, when cancer goes to lymph nodes, then we know, oh, we're in danger, right? And so that is where we have a lot of our fighters. I'm pointing under my arm because a lot of you have lymph nodes here under your arm, you have them here in your neck. Sometimes you feel them swollen. If you have a sore throat, you're not feeling good. And so it's, you know, you can get lymphatic massage in certain places. Doing things like dry brushing can help move the lymph. But when we can, it doesn't have a pump like our heart. Our heart pumps, it pushes the blood through the body, helps our circulation. But we need to move our body to move the lymph. And so we need to move the entire body, you know, moving your toes. If you have a broken arm or a broken leg and it's hard, then make sure you're moving your toes, moving your fingers, moving what you are allowed to move. Don't go against your doctor's orders, but moving your body the best you can to get those fluids moving. So movement is very important. The food, we're all here, we know about the food, and I'll talk a little bit about the food if I have plenty of time, unless questions pop up. And I was trying to, and mindset, having a positive attitude. You know, I was talking to someone earlier today, actually, and you know, you hear, you know, doctor says, you have this such and such condition, and you know, what's the prognosis? You know, maybe 4 to 6 months. Well, there's 2 ways you hear about people. You know, they were given 4 to 6 months and they die a month later, or they're given 4 to 6 months and 10 years later, they're still around. It's all about mindset. You know, you can say, okay, I only have 4 to 6 months, or you can say, I have I have lots more time than that. You don't know what you're talking about. And so it's all about mindset, right? And that's what the rest of our body too. You know, if a doctor tells you have a diagnosis, an autoimmune condition, I've been told that, right? I can accept that. They say it's, you know, incurable. There's nothing we can do about it. Nobody knows what causes it, blah, blah, blah. So I can say, oh, okay, and give in to the symptoms and the pain. Or I can say, I'm going to prove them wrong. And I'm not saying go against your doctor's order, medical disclaimer, educational purposes only here, right? Do your own due diligence, but you can say, I'm going to prove them wrong, and do your own research and find things that you can do and focus on that positive mindset. Focus on the freedom pillars, Dr. Rita Marie's, the fun, the rest, the exercise, right? The mindset, the optimal foods and things like that. So all of those are so important. I thought we need to go back to the basis. You know, movement every day, exercise every day. So it's the same thing with exercise. You'll hear about people who, you know, they run and they work out every day, but they don't watch what they eat. Well, you can't outrun a poor diet. You can't eat. A poor diet is not going to fuel a good run. It's not going to fuel good weights. It's not going to give you all the vitamins and the minerals and everything that you need to build those muscles. And so, you know, you hear about people who train in the gym and they focus on all the protein, but they're neglecting, you know, the minerals and things like that that are also so important, especially for energy. ATP, we hear that word, those letters a lot. That's all about energy, but you have to have vitamins and minerals and different amino acids to help with that energy, to help with creating and releasing lactic acid and then eliminating the lactic acid as well. You've probably, if you've worked out or trained hard, you've felt that burn, right? That has to get eliminated from our body. So we need the right things in place to get that out of the body as well. So that was kind of my tangent for today. And what I had thought I would talk about today was a raw vegan diet. So I eat a mostly raw vegan diet. So people would call it a raw vegan diet because I think you can be 75% raw and it's called a raw vegan diet. Anyway, I don't really like to claim what I eat because it's not 100%. It's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And I don't want to try to live up to something that is perfect, right? But I want to eat as well as I can, as often as I can. But when I travel or go on vacation or something, there's some things I can't eat. I do have all the celiac genes. I cannot have gluten. Corn, for me, corn cross reacts with gluten. So do things like chocolate and coffee and things like that, right? And so if those cause issue for somebody, then even when you're on vacation or traveling, you can't have those things. You can, but you have to be prepared for an autoimmune reaction, some form of inflammation. If it's something like for me, I don't feel it right away. And so I didn't know until I gave it up for good that it caused a problem for me, but it was in my genes. And so it's something that I had to eliminate. So I just wanted to talk about raw vegan diet because I see it all over social media, but I know social media is geared to what you're looking at. And I was on, I can't remember her name, Jillian Berry. I was on her YouTube 6-8 months ago. She's raw vegan. And so I started researching it. And so of course those things start triggering more in your feed, right? But a raw vegan diet is when you're consuming whole foods, which is what I do and I recommend, uncooked, unprocessed, and in their natural state. Now, I do cook some of my foods. You see that I eat beans. I think beans are very important, and there's so many vitamins and minerals. Are they right for everybody? There are people who do live just fine without beans. In my genetics, I need more protein and things like that. I do better when I do eat some beans or like lentils, peas. I'm calling all those in the same type of category. So people who are 100% raw wouldn't eat those things. There are reasons why I do encourage people to eat those things and why a raw vegan diet is considered about 75% raw. There are some foods that you absorb the nutrients much better when they are cooked. And so it is better to have them lightly steamed or cooked. For me, so I keep talking about genetics, right? For me, I have a gene where I have trouble converting vitamin A. That's also closely tied to autoimmune conditions and cancer. So anyone who has those, I strongly recommend that you have genetic testing done and have it analyzed and see if that's something for you. I have genes for vitamin D conversion and or receptors. I think it's the receptors and vitamin A conversion. So those are things I need to focus on, right? When I'm looking at my diet, where do I get vitamin A? From my orange and yellow foods. And they're better absorbed if they are cooked. So like cooked winter squashes, cooked sweet potatoes, cooked carrots and things like that. I can eat them raw, but I'm going to need more raw to get the same amount of vitamin A. Why don't I just supplement? Well, I could, but vitamin A is stored in fat. It's a fat soluble vitamin. And so if I took the supplement, I could overdose on it. And as a matter of fact, children have died from taking too many vitamins that had vitamin A in them. For me, I would much rather get them from my food. And I do have regular testing performed. And in my test, I have plenty of vitamin A in my blood. I didn't when I first started testing. My doctor wanted me to supplement. And I said, well, wait, give me a minute to try this on my own. And it worked with the food. So I strongly encourage you to use food, but knowledge is power. So just finding out about your genetics and finding out where your susceptibilities are is really a wonderful thing to know. It doesn't mean I'm going to be deficient in vitamin A. It doesn't mean I'm going to be deficient in vitamin D. It just means I need to focus on those things. So the same thing happens in the rest of the genes. I'm getting off on a tangent. I want to talk about raw vegan. So raw vegan is also when they don't heat their food over 118 degrees because it can kill enzymes in the foods. Now our body does create enzymes to help us to break down and easily digest our foods, but a lot of the foods that we eat, if they are in their whole natural state, also contain enzymes. And so it kind of helps us digest our food even better. And so that's why I strongly recommend that everyone have a large salad. You see my leftover salad or everyday salad. You can go to my YouTube and see, some of you are on YouTube, and see my videos for my everyday salad. I have one every day. When I first started studying, Dr. Furman did the nutritarian diet, and he said to eat a pound of raw and a pound of cooked vegetables every day. I thought, you're out of your mind. But once you start doing it, you crave it. Like if I don't have a salad for lunch, I'm like, oh, by dinner, I need a salad. My body needs that. Now, if you have a really fast transit time, you eat salad and you have to run to the bathroom, then raw might not be right for you, right? So lightly steaming your foods. You don't want to be 100% raw. And like I said, you could be raw being 75% raw. So maybe there's some other foods that you can eat that are not cooked, but you may have to eat some slightly cooked food and not eat raw foods, especially if you're healing your gut and things like that. So some people, when they eat raw vegan, they get too cold, especially in the wintertime. How do you eat this when it's cold? You can put it in the dehydrator and warm it to 118. That's slightly warm. You can run it in your blender. Like I make soups in my blender, and my blender even heats it up. As a matter of fact, when I was at where was I? The Living Foods Institute in Atlanta, when we ran the Vitamix, they told us to watch how long you run. Don't let it run. I can't remember if it was 1 minute or 2 minutes, because it would heat it up too much and kill the enzymes in the soup. We would make Ann Wigmore's energy soup when I was there every morning. So those are things you can do. Gently warm it on the stove, warm it in the blender, warm it in the dehydrator. Using warming spices. What are warming spices? Peppers, ginger, even turmeric. Those are more warming. Drinking teas. Teas are nice and warm as well. And so those are great ways to warm up. Now, this time of year, summertime is a fabulous time to eat raw vegan foods. Raw vegan foods can also include living foods. You may have heard of living foods. Living foods is when you're soaking and sprouting nuts and seeds, which I strongly encourage you to do, and beans and grains. So all of those, you may have heard about lectins. There is a very famous or well-known marketer, a doctor who sells supplements to help people with lectins, and he promotes not eating lectins, or if you do, you can take this supplement, because what does he do? He sells these supplements. So I don't agree with that. There are almost all of our foods contain lectins. I'm not going to eliminate lectins. There would be nothing else left, right? And I don't have a deficiency of being able to handle lectins. I just need to prepare my foods appropriately. Grains and beans, soak, right? Soak, then rinse, drain, and then for beans or grains, you want to fill up the pot with plenty of water and cook them again. But you want to rinse and soak for a period of time, depending on the beans or the grains. Same thing as with your nuts and seeds. All of these are a seed that is meant to be planted in the ground and create another plant to grow. So it passes through an animal, goes into the ground, and then it creates. So when we have these foods, they're seeds. We do need to soak them to help activate them. It's called activated, which removes those enzyme inhibitors so that we are better able to absorb the nutrients. For a nourishing raw vegan diet, you need to eat plenty of greens. Our greens contain high amounts of minerals, but also protein. If we were to go pound for pound, there's a lot percentage-wise of protein in our greens, but can you eat pounds and pounds of greens? When you look at those containers, they're usually like 3 ounces or 5 ounce containers. I could eat one of those maybe for salad for lunch, but that's still only about 3 or 5 ounces. It's definitely not pounds. So we need lots. That's why a lot of people use juices and smoothies and things like that to help them get more minerals and more protein. And when they are not eating these other foods. And another thing that's very, very important is eating a rainbow diet. So you want to make sure you're getting all the colors of the rainbow. Just like I said with vitamin A, we're looking at the orange and the red foods. The same thing happens with all of our other nutrients that we need. We have tons of different chemicals. Some you may have heard about, like for your eyes, zeaxanthin and lutein. They are so important for the eyes. We can get them from our orange and yellow foods. And so that's very important to make sure we're eating those colors. Anthocyanins, those are in our reds and our purples. Purple is, you remember the color chart, right? So purple contains red. And so we need to make sure we're getting some of those. So the blues are very important for our brain. And so that means that the purples and the blues are very good for our brain. We want to make sure that we're getting all of the different colors, especially if you're eating a raw vegan diet. Eating sprouted legumes and sprouted grains. There are some beans that you cannot eat sprouted. They must be cooked, especially like kidney beans. You get very sick if you eat raw kidney beans. And so you want to make sure that you're learning about these different foods, cooking the ones that must be cooked and things like that. But like I've sprouted, like buckwheat sprouts, if you eat large amounts of buckwheat sprouts, that can cause like neuropathy or even burning in the fingers and the toes. So you have to be really careful. You don't want to just jump all in and eat whatever. You need to learn about some of these foods if they're new to you. So I've eaten sprouted quinoa. That can be hard on the teeth though. Sprouted quinoa. I do use sprouted buckwheat when I make crackers and breads and pizza crust and things like that. But then I do cook them when I make I dehydrate them. Anyway, those things can all be sprouted and then consumed to help you get more of your B vitamins and things like that. So scientific studies have shown that eating this way can reduce your risk of chronic disease, especially heart disease. There's so many studies that show a relationship between eating this way and heart disease, certain cancers, type 2 diabetes. We just want to make sure that we're focusing on plenty of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. This is very, very important, and especially looking at the omega-3 fats. You probably have heard about fish oil. Well, if you're eating a vegan diet, you're not eating fish oil, but you may be willing to eat algae oil or consume things like chlorella or spirulina, things like that, or using nuts and seeds. So even if you're allergic to nuts, you can still have things like hemp seeds and flax seeds. Some people I know can't have seeds. That would be very, very difficult for me. But then maybe if you could have walnuts, or like I said, the flax seeds or chia seeds. If you can't have any of those, then you may want to look into EPA and DHA supplements, which are easy to do. Now, I don't like supplements, but for some people, we do need supplements. Anyway, I am out of time. If you have any questions about what I talked about today, I have a couple of messages that popped up. I want to make sure there aren't any questions. I don't see any, but thank you for joining me. And like I said, if you have any questions, let me know so that and tell me what you want to hear about for next week. I hope you have a fabulous week, and I will talk to you soon.